Today on the Guitar Channel, we're taking a look at my somewhat heavily modded SG. Everyone has a different definition of heavily modded, but these are some of the things that I've done to help it suit my playstyle just a bit better. First of all, this is a 2016 Gibson SG Standard that I purchased new in 2017. There were two identical models on the wall at my local store, and this one just had some inexplicable mojo that the other one didn't, if you believe in that sort of thing. Maybe this one was just set up better or set up more recently. The first actual mod was the Dunlop strap locks, but since that's both self-explanatory and not very exciting, let's move on to mod number 2, which is likely the one that you have questions about, the Bigsby B7. Now, as much as I'd love to tell you some story about how I used the hell out of vibrato and I couldn't live without it, that's just not true. I think a lot of us have some trepidation in admitting that certain modifications are purely aesthetic and therefore insert some half-baked practical justification as to not upset the purist elites. Or maybe that's just me. Either way, this is an absolutely non-functioning Bigsby B7 vibrato. It's actually intended for archtop guitars like the 335 and the Les Paul, and is in no way designed for the SG. If you do want a Bigsby for your SG, you'd probably be best served with their B5 model. I love the full-tail look of the B7 because it reminds me of the Maestro Vibrolas from the 61 SG. Luckily, I had this B7 lying around unused, so I didn't need to go out of my way and buy a new one. The first thing you need to do to get the B7 to fit in SG is to remove the hinge pin that holds the back piece. It's this piece right here where the rear strap pin goes. That part needs to be flipped because the distance between the tailpiece and the strap pin is a little different than on a Les Paul, and the B7 won't fit straight out of the box. Again, if you actually want a functional Bigsby on an SG, go with the B5. Once that was done, I installed it to the guitar using the Vibramate V7 mounting kit and spoiler. I honestly used the vibrato as intended for about 2 days before I decided to ditch the spring. The increased tuning hassle was not worth some subtle vibrato in my opinion. Plus, I'd rather do vibrato just by bending the neck anyway. It looks cooler. So I went down to my local hardware store and asked them to cut me a half-inch piece of PVC that I could put in place of the spring. They actually didn't know how to charge for that small of a piece, so I ended up getting it for free. With the spring gone and the arm removed, the now vibrato-free tailpiece is predominantly aesthetic, but it still technically has a secondary purpose, which is adding a bit more weight to the body, helping the guitar feel a bit more balanced. And I can always put the spring and the arm back at any time if I need to. Who am I kidding? I'll probably never need to, but just in case I want to. Moving up to the headstock is a set of Spurzel? I don't know, with my luck, both of those pronunciations will be wrong. Anyway, the USA locking tuners. These are the trim lock models in satin chrome. They technically don't match the rest of the hardware, but they were given to me by a luthier friend and they look close enough to me. And finally, the pickups and electronics. Back in 2016, which is a lot further back in time than it feels, the SG Standard came stock with a 498T at the bridge and a 490R at the neck. The 498T is known as the hot Alnico pickup because it uses an Alnico 5 magnet and has a DC resistance of about 14K. The 490R uses Alnico 2 and is less hot at around 8K. The issue that I had and that most people tend to have with this set, particularly in the SG, is that the bridge is too brittle and the neck is too warm. So dialing in an amp to suit one pickup makes the other sound even more unpleasant in its own respective way. The first thing I did was replace the Alnico 2 magnet in the 490R with a ceramic magnet to give it more clarity, and that actually worked quite well. It still had that medium output with a sweet top end that didn't get anywhere close to ice picky. I later learned that I had accidentally just made a 496R pickup, which is good to know. From there, I tried a Seymour Duncan Custom in the bridge position. I had previously tried this in a Les Paul Studio and it sounded great. It had solid low end, articulate top end, everything I thought that I wanted. The strange thing is that it sounded completely different in this guitar. There was no low end, an annoying mid-range, and shrill highs. So it's still brittle in the bridge, but if I roll the tone down a smidge... This is the exact moment that I became a believer in the whole tone wood thing, because I found it bizarre that the exact same pickup, not just another one of the same model, but the exact same pickup could sound dramatically different from one guitar to another. Anyway, it was time again to move on, so next up I dropped a set of burst buckers in there. This was a couple years ago now, but I'm pretty sure it was the 1 and 2 in the neck and bridge respectively. Again, they sounded fine as you'd expect, but I was back to that muddy neck and shrill bridge issue. And just in case you're wondering, yes, I did swap the pots out for 500K. I think they were CTS, but either way they were high quality pots rated at 500K. I'm pretty sure that the pots that come stock in this model were 300K, and we just can't have that. Now, I could have kept trying Gibson pickups like the 57 Classics or even tried some Seymour Duncan custom shop solutions, but I was frustrated enough at this point and decided to go to EMG almost sarcastically. My attitude was, if all EMG pickups just make every guitar sound the same, then damn it, I guess I'll just do that. So first up was the headset. I enjoyed those in my Hetfield Iron Cross, and combined with an overwhelming amount of praise from the internet, this had to be it, right? Wrong. Here we go again onto the Tonewood thing, but while they were great in the maple-capped, single-cut LP stylings of the Iron Cross, they didn't quite work in the SG. Correction, the bridge pickup didn't quite work in the SG. The neck pickup was again quite nice. The bridge just had way too much gain and way too much mid-range for my liking. This was in 2019, and I had just about given up, so I decided to just live with the headset for a few years. It also helped that I was growing increasingly preoccupied with the bass channel, and I only played this guitar about 4 times between 2019 and 2024. Another point of interest in going active is that I could not fit the 9-volt battery alongside all 4 pots, the bus, and the output jack. Someone more skilled maybe could, but I was not that person. So I opted to have a 2-volume and master tone setup, and I filled the empty hole with a momentary kill switch. But finally, in 2024, just about a month prior to me standing in the closet speaking to you through an SM7 for arguably too long about my guitar, I decided to try again. I reached out to EMG and ordered a set of the 5766 TW pickups. I'll spare you the details of how I yet again heard the standard 5766 in a Les Paul and loved them. Combine that with the added single coil tone, and this felt the most promising. And it totally was. This was finally the tone that I've been searching for. Or the tone for which I'd been searching. The dual coil mode still has an abundance of mid-range for this guitar, but nothing I'd call unusable. However, for me, the single coil tone these pickups have is absolutely incredible. It's so good that I made it the default setting. Rolling the tone knob back to about 6 or 7 gives the bridge single coil a bit of a P90 attitude. And of course, on certain amp settings, the dual coil tone gives the sound more beef. The install was a little tricky, but nothing an amateur like myself couldn't handle. These dual mode pickups need a push-pull pot to switch between the modes, and even the short shaft push-pulls are just a little too big for this control cavity. As you can see in this glorious B-roll that I shot, the back cover doesn't sit perfectly flush. What the B-roll doesn't show is that these dual mode pickups are a little bit taller than the standard size humbucker, so in order to get the neck pickup to sit low enough, a small amount of wood had to be removed from the neck pickup cavity. This was quite easy, but any SG owner will know exactly why that's quite a bit scary to do. Luckily, that doesn't bother me, but I'm almost positive it'll further close off an already close-minded person to trying these pickups. My journey in obtaining the right sound for this guitar has been a long one, but it was not for nothing. I share all these details with you because I know some people have the same issues with the SG and the 498-490 combo. It feels great, it looks good, it has everything you want except for the tone, and maybe with this you'll find the answer a bit quicker than I did. Or maybe you love the 2016 SG completely stock, at which time you can feel free to throw virtual tomatoes at me in the comments. But also, please don't. It gets exhausting. Either way, what I have now is the same great feeling foundation of the 2016 SG Standard with exactly the tone that perfectly suits my playstyle, with some added balance and cool looks from what is now essentially a Bigsby tailpiece. So if you stayed to the end, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was inspiring, or at very least entertaining. But if you didn't make it to the end, you just won a lifetime supply of your favorite guitar strings, and you missed your chance to claim it. So as I like to say, until next time, be safe, and I'll see you later.